It's very easy for teams to be thrown off or to be a little clunky when they return to the field after an off week. That can't happen this year.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a feel-good Friday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day here on Friday, the 13th in September in 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Ohio State's first of 2 off weeks this year comes after the Buckeyes have only played a couple games. They've been very dominant in those games. They have not given up a touchdown. The last game was a shutout, and the Buckeyes scored 50-plus points in both games. That's very rare, and the Buckeyes should be feeling very good about themselves. But however, during an off week, it's different. It's odd. We talked about it yesterday about how sometimes during an off week, when your schedule's different, that can mess up your mind and mess up the focus during practice. Well, Ohio State is preparing now to return to the field next week. And one thing they can do now is make sure they stay focused so that when they return to the field, they are keeping that same energy. Because if the Buckeyes keep that same energy that they opened the season with, watch out everybody else. A couple years ago, we witnessed Ohio State be a little wacky, a little off, it seemed, coming off of their off week in 2022. To start that year, the Buckeyes started the start of the year 6-0. They had wins over Notre Dame, Arkansas State, Toledo, Wisconsin, Rutgers, and Michigan State. Now, they came off that off week, and even though the Buckeyes blew out Iowa 54-10, that game just didn't feel like the others did. Something just seemed a little off, a little clunky in that game. And you see the rest of the way in the regular season, if you go back and look at that schedule, the only other regular season loss and only other losses in that season were there was a loss to Michigan and a loss to Georgia. So the other teams that Ohio State played, they were supposed to beat them, and they did. You lose to Georgia, they win the Natty. You lose to Michigan, and that was just a weird game in and of itself. But that Iowa game, the Penn State game, the Northwestern game, the Indiana game, and the Maryland game, all those games were a little bit different, a little bit odd. And it made me start to think, is that same thing going to happen now this year? I don't know, but it shouldn't. The focus of this team is completely different than that team in 2022. And that's not saying that team in 2022 was not focused or was not ready to go or did not have future NFL talent. It definitely had that. However, it did kind of feel like something was a little bit different. And nobody could really put their finger on it. I did shows here. Myself and Jeff Hunt talked about it after that Iowa game and said, hey, bro, we know the Buckeyes won 54-10, but something didn't feel right. Something just didn't hit me right. Now, you want to fast forward a few weeks in that season. There was a game against Northwestern on the road in Evanston where there are 50-plus mile-per-hour winds. But even then, wins or not, it definitely seemed like in that game, some guys just were not fully motivated and wanted to play. Ultimately, Ohio State won that game. The final score was 21-7. But even then, with that outcome, it still made me think, like, what is going on? Why does this game feel so weird? The veteran leadership on this team, the focus so far, and even some of the true freshmen and James Peoples and Jeremiah Smith and Edric Houston and others, they are laser focused on the task at hand. It doesn't matter if it's Will Howard, Devin Brown, or Julian Sand, or Henderson, or Peoples, or on the other side of the ball, if it's Hicks, or if it's Arvell Reese, it does not matter. Everybody is laser focused right now. And that's the kind of energy Ohio State must keep all season long, especially when they return to the field a little over a week from now. Because if they don't, they can still go out there and win most of their games in the regular season. That trip to Eugene, Oregon gets a whole lot harder. The trip to Happy Valley gets a whole lot harder. That trip when Michigan comes to town, that's going to get a whole lot harder. Now, Michigan is, I know we see from Michigan. I do think Michigan will get better throughout the year. So I'm not going to try to say that Michigan in game number 12 is the same Michigan Wolverines team we have seen through the first 2 games, because I don't think that's what they're going to be or who they will be. But the Buckeyes, if they don't keep the same energy, we could be looking and having conversations at the end of the year saying, oh, here we go again, same old song and dance, a sense of deja vu. But my gut says that's not going to happen. My gut says with the way that the leaders are leading the team right now, and the starters, and really not just the starters, but everyone being on the same page, and Ryan Day having the mindset that we need to focus and find every little detail for players to improve during an improvement week. Man, that's the kind of mindset that I think Ryan Day, he may have had previously, but when you're still in charge and running so much of the offense, you can't really be a part of every conversation. Which is why when it comes to Ryan Day right now, I like the version of Day we're getting when he is not running the offense, calling offensive plays and things of that nature. He is able to be a factor in every aspect of every play, and you're seeing it right now. You can see plays in the fourth quarter when things go wrong. He is furious. He is still coaching very, very hard, which that I think is a big reason why the team opened up the way that it did. Because we have seen Ryan Day's teams be really, really, really talented and open the season up a little, taking 2 or 3 games to kind of feel things out. But when you get this version of Ryan Day, which is, I think this is the version of Ryan Day we have all wanted, we talked about it, we've asked for it, we've all said, hey, this is what Ryan Day needs to be. Take your hands off the offense, find somebody that you trust, allow them to do what they need to do, but then also allow the players to police themselves, but you still have to oversee the entire program, which is why I think my gut tells me the Buckeyes will keep the same energy. It doesn't matter what player, if it's offense or defense or special teams will get fixed. I don't know if they're going to have Brandon Ennis be the kick returner as well as a punt returner. It wouldn't shock me if they try to use Kojo Antwi, who is a backup receiver, to kind of be more of a piece of the pie in the kickoff return game. I'm not sure, but it wouldn't shock me if they put Brandon Ennis back there to return kickoffs as well. I don't think Jaden Ballard's the guy. They've been calling for him to step up, and Ryan Day said some things about Jaden Ballard during an offseason press conference. He said, hey, we got to have JB step up. That's not a word-for-word quote, but that's the gist of the conversation. JB needs to step up, and after a couple of games, I don't think the Buckeyes are really confident in having Jaden Ballard be deep returning kickoffs. Okay, cool. He had a chance. Once again, didn't happen. And here we go. The luxury is Ohio State has a lot of players that could be back there doing that thing. And another luxury is Ohio State is able and willing and understands that they need to keep this same energy all season long. Because if you do, the energy right now has a different feel to it, a different vibe, but it just screams championship mindset. That is why you got to keep this energy, because it's a championship mindset Ohio State has, and if they lose it, you're only going to go down. You're not really going to go up. If you lose this mindset, you're going down, and going down is not the way Ohio State wants to go. What Ohio State wants to do is to continue to capitalize on some of the bright spots of the Buckeyes offense and defense. We're going to dive into a couple of poll questions that dive into these very topics. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car to the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster, and for free. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to help make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. One thing we started recently here on the show is going over and really posting in the community tab on the Locked On Buckeyes YouTube page. You'll get polls daily. You will get game day updates about, hey, who is playing, who is not playing, gain the information about, well, this is the time. If you need an update there, here's where you can watch the game. And there's other news and updates throughout the week that, well, you don't really get anywhere else. You can get it right there on the community tab, right there on the Locked On Buckeyes YouTube page. It's another reason to subscribe to the Locked On Buckeyes on the YouTube. Well, one of the things I've started doing is just putting poll questions out daily. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there is two. And there's been a lot of great interaction there. There's a comment section, and those comments have been great. One question that I asked recently was, which aspect of Ohio State's offense has impressed you the most this season? There were almost 100 people voting. The options are Will Howard's command and mobility, the explosive run game, the overall offensive yardage, and the variety of offensive weapons. 44% of you selected the variety of offensive weapons, while 39% selected Will Howard's command and mobility. Well, for me, I am with the 44% of you that selected the variety of offensive weapons. We saw a little bit of that against Western Michigan. We saw a little bit of that against Akron. And what we're seeing right now is that Chip Kelly really can have a different game plan for every team out there. Because if you need to do some things over the middle, maybe a team's secondary or pass coverage is weak over the middle, well, you got numerous receivers, your top four guys, that can accomplish that goal. Maybe they're weak on the outside the hashes. Well, you got a quarterback that's been showing you he is getting better at making those throws, and you can do that. Now, the question is, how often does Chip Kelly want or need Will Howard to throw the ball deep? Is that a weakness? Well, we haven't seen it consistently, but you also haven't needed to. So if it's a weakness, maybe, but maybe the offense is so good that that weakness can be covered up because it's just not needed. But also in the run game, we saw a speed option. We've seen a lot of inside-outside zone. We've seen a couple of running backs. We've seen even three running backs at times in Henderson and Judkins and Peoples. We have seen Will Howard maneuver in the pocket and side swipe defenders and get them off of him. I mean, the weapons that Ohio State has right now, it's a huge luxury. And it's one thing Chip Kelly is probably drooling about in the evening when he's putting the final pieces to the game plan together, saying, man, look, Chip Kelly's coached a lot of places. He's coaching the NFL. And in the NFL, yes, the players are better, but my goodness, in college, I can't think of many teams out there that have had this amount of talent on offense at one time. I mean, it's truly, at the end of the day, I cannot say it overall, but if things go the way that we think it should, this will compare with the amount of talent that LSU in 2019 had, that Alabama had in 2020. I'd rival with the amount of talent that those early, 2000 Miami team or 01 Miami Hurricanes team had on offense. I mean, it will compare with that. Now, the Hurricanes team, I believe they had three running backs too. I don't know if their third RB was a freshman, a true freshman like James Peoples. So I'm not trying to say like there's apples to, I'm not trying to say compared to that. Plus, the team I just mentioned, they won the national championship. Ohio State's got months to be able to do that. But the amount of offensive weapons that Ohio State has right now, that is my answer to the question. I am with the majority of you that voted in this poll, but also, no matter who's on the outside, the skill positions, or even at quarterback, you can't really get those guys the ball. The offensive line is not doing everything they need to do. Context is everything, though. Ohio State has played two MAC schools. Now, some Buckeyes may have gotten the attention of Western Michigan, or what Western Michigan may have gotten the attention of Ohio State going into that game, which is true, but they're MAC schools, group of 5 schools that are not going to be in the contention of running to be the top G5 school to make the playoff at the end of the year. That's why context is everything. I do think Marshall will throw a different wrinkle at Ohio State. Michigan State, of course, will. And once you get to the Big Ten play, it's going to be a whole lot different. I don't think it's going to really force Chip Kelly to not be able to have a fresh game plan for every team out there, because the weapons are so good, you might as well use them. Another question that was out there on the community tab there on Locked On Buckeyes on the YouTube was, which aspect of Ohio State's defense excites you the most? We think about defense, there's a lot of things that excite us about Ohio State's defense. The 4 options are defensive line depth, linebacker versatility, secondary strength, or overall team coordination. I think that was kind of self-explanatory there. The one that you might guess had the most votes. 71% of the voters picked overall team coordination. 14% of you picked secondary strength. 11% said defensive line depth. And then 4% selected linebacker versatility. I would go with the overall as well. I am very happy and pleased with the linebacker play, probably more than I thought I was going to be, because heading into the season, just like offensive line, I was very curious about how Sonny Styles and CJ Hicks and even Arvell Reese, but he was not someone that I really talked about a lot, as saying, oh, I'm really curious about what he'll do on the field. But we're seeing now Arvell Reese in game number 2 had more snaps than CJ Hicks. Hicks only had 12, where Hicks played a lot in game number 1. You're looking for more consistency. That's great. So I can understand why the linebacker versatility is 4%. But man, overall, I mean, similar to the Buckeyes offense, the Buckeyes defense is so good, and the linebacker play will continue to rise and be better and better and better all season, that they could easily say, well, we're going to run a 4-2-5 this week. If we needed to run a 3-3-5, we could do that. Not saying it's going to be needed, but they could do that. If we needed to run a 4-3 or 4-4 or a 4-6 bear front, whatever it might be, they can do that. Why? Because of the amount of talent and the leadership and the caliber of athletes that Ohio State has on the defense. Overall, this is a unit that, coming off of a year where Ohio State was one of the best defenses in the country, they're even better so far this year. I think they'll be even better this year all season long. Defense wins championships. I know some people have heard that their whole lives, and they're going to continue to hear it because it's still true. Defense wins championships. And the Buckeyes currently right now have a championship level defense. Regardless of what the offense is, I don't think the offense will be able to match how lethal the defense is. I think the offense will not be very far off, though. But with the defense the way that it is, and it all starts up with the front 6, with the 4 down linemen and the 2 linebackers, if they continue to do this against every opponent, they're going to bring that trophy home at the end of the year. There's one more poll question left, and this one's about what we're all doing tomorrow, because the Buckeyes aren't playing, and I'm curious what your off-week plans are. This episode is brought to you by Factor. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine with 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week. You'll always have the new flavors to explore. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or even cleaning up. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more. And the best service in Central Ohio. And guys, check this out. Billiards Plus carries grills that have up to 30-year warranties. That's right, a grill with a 30-year warranty. Everything you need for in-home and backyard entertainment is at Billiards Plus. And their grills, whether you like charcoal or gas or wood-fired, Billiards Plus has the perfect setup for all grillers. They are family-owned and operated, and when you talk to the staff at Billiards Plus, you know you're talking to an expert who won't steer you wrong. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has all of you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus. Visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Poll questions are fun, in season or out of season, just like off-season lists. Those are fun as well. They're fun for us to kind of throw ideas around, and maybe if something is said that kind of frustrates you, well, that thing is going to be there, and it's just fun for conversation's sake. Well, these poll questions are fun too, and when I realized, well, you guys are very curious, and I want to hear what you guys have to say, and these poll questions will allow us to have a little healthy back and forth. We're going to do this thing more consistently. One question I put out was, what are your plans for Ohio State's off week? Because as we all know, the Buckeyes aren't playing tomorrow. The options are relaxing and taking a break from football, watching other college football games, working on home projects, or even enjoying outdoor activities with family. I could have easily added a fifth option where it's a mixture of the two and then said, please specify in the comments, because I guarantee some of you are probably going to be like me, where you're kind of doing a couple of these in a 12, 14, 16-hour span just because there's more time to do it. Well, I'm going to go bottom to top and tell you the options that were the least voted upon and the ones that was the most picked. Tied at 8%, enjoying outdoor activities with family and relaxing and taking a break from football. That one kind of shocked me. I thought taking a break from football would be the least amount, not tied for the third place. Working on home projects was 10% of you said that, and then 74% of you said watching other college football games. Just, I'm with you. Like in the evening, I talked to my wife a couple days ago, or maybe it was last night. I forget. But I said, hey, that IU UCLA game has my attention in the evening. She's thinking Indiana and UCLA, they're not good football teams, which is true. Like, they're not good football teams. But I, as my mom is an Indiana grad, I am always looking to see IU and if they're doing well or if they're not doing well. I'm always following along with them on the football field. Well, I'm going to be watching that game. I'm going to try to watch some of it, maybe follow along if I am out, if we're out doing things. But I want to follow that game. Another game I want to follow, and I don't know if I'll be home for this one, Alabama, Wisconsin. It's weird, very, very odd. And I don't know how, and I'm sure Nick Saban was, I know Nick Saban was involved in this, but it's very odd to have a team from Alabama, no matter if it's Alabama or Auburn, they're both in the SEC, coming up north to that part of the north to play Wisconsin. Now, I know it wasn't, I think last year or the year before, Auburn and Penn State had a home and home, which is a little bit different. I'm like, oh, okay, like we can get used to this in a couple of years. I think it's 3 or 4 years now that Ohio State and Alabama have a home and home scheduled. It's still odd. I'm here for it. I want more of this, but it's still odd. But I do think, though, I'm here for it. Alabama, Wisconsin. I think Alabama's going to roll the Badgers. I don't think the Badgers are going to have a chance to keep this thing close, but I'll be trying to follow along with it. Now, if you're a person like me that's probably going to combine a couple of these options, you're probably going to be a person. I'm not saying you will be, but there's a good chance you're going to watch other college football games. Maybe it may not be a Big Ten game. It may be a SEC game. Maybe you're someone trying to watch football in the Midwest, and it is a Big Ten team and a Big Ten game or team, and it is a rivalry game between Notre Dame and Purdue. Maybe you don't care about that, but that's another game there. It's going to be one for us to watch. But my gut says a lot of you will be like me, watching other college football games, and you'll be enjoying outdoor activities with family. That's probably where my Saturday will be. I could have added even gym time, work out a little bit in the morning, which a lot of people may say, I still work out on a Saturday anyway, just don't do it when Ohio State's playing. Okay, that's cool. But that's another option that could have been thrown in this poll. What are your off week vibes and plans for this weekend? Throw them in the chat on the YouTube because I'm very, very curious. Get a little bit more specific than the 4 options that were there on the community tab or the post that was there on the YouTube because I want to hear from you. What are you doing? Are you guys going out to a festival? Are you guys going to be just shopping? Are you guys going to catching up on yard work outside or building different things inside the home? What are you going to be doing? Because I guarantee some of y'all got a list of things that you've been wanting to do, but it's the fall. It's football season. Ohio State's playing. And when the Buckeyes are playing, you are tuned into what Ohio State is doing on the field. I'm with you. I am the same way. But then you realize there's no game all day. Let's try to do a little bit of everything. Try to make sure the family gets priority, watch some ball, do some things outside in the yard, go to the gym maybe. Try to accomplish numerous goals that you normally might not be able to accomplish on a college football Saturday when Ohio State is playing. This weekend, I am going to be tapped into and trying to follow along as much as I can with Alabama and Wisconsin. Another one, Arkansas State, Michigan. It's not some game that's a big one, but it's Michigan. And I am going to be following along not only because it's Michigan, but Michigan hasn't looked great all year. They had a close game early, week number 1 against Fresno State. Arkansas State is not a good team. Wolverines are favored by over 3 touchdowns to win this game. But I'm still going to be closely watching this one. Missouri and Boston College. Bill O'Brien is doing something in Boston College right now that it may be shocking to some. Missouri is going to be one of those teams that is going to be fighting to be in the SEC championship game this year. I'm not saying they're going to win it. I think my favorite, just like yours, is probably Georgia. But Missouri's defense, just like Ohio State's, started off the season hot. Very, very hot. I'm really curious to see what those two teams do this year. Of course, you got a rivalry game between Oregon and Oregon State. I always love rivalry games, so I want to watch that one. Notre Dame and Purdue. If you want to watch Georgia play, they're playing Kentucky on ABC at 7:30 in prime time there. So many great games and good teams to watch. Yeah, it's a Saturday without Ohio State football. We can watch ball and spend more time with our family and accomplish a lot of goals as well. Thank you all for tapping into Locked On Buckeyes here on a Feel Good Friday. Now go check out the Locked On College Football podcast. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors. Not just rumors. The Pac-12 just added 4 more schools in San Diego State, Boise State, Colorado State, and San Diego State. I knew it was 4 state schools there. Well, Spencer McLaughlin will get you ready for an exciting season and keep you up to date with the never-ending conference realignment rumors as schools are joining conferences even in season. You can find the link, to Locked On College Football in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Buckeye fans, we're out of here on a Friday. Remember to follow me on Twitter at jsteven07 and subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes on the YouTube. There are things that will be happening that are exclusive to the YouTube that you don't want to miss. Out of here, y'all. We'll see you next time.